Well, that's a perfect introduction for me to talk. I'm here representing the justice sector, and we also have Judge Steve Galvin, the juvenile court judge, and Christine McAfee from juvenile probation, and Rich Hansen, the juvenile deputy prosecutor. I want to just, back up and talk about what do schools have to do with the criminal justice system. And as it turns out, a lot. There's plenty of research that indicates that truancy leads to dropping out of school, and dropping out of school is associated with just about every social problem that you can think of, from substance abuse to low self-esteem to unwanted pregnancy, unemployment, low-paying jobs, poverty, reliance on public assistance, poor physical and mental health, right on up through delinquent behavior, engaging in violence, adult criminal behavior, and incarceration as an adult. As much as we like to focus on rehabilitation in the criminal justice system, the chances are that if someone winds up being involved in the justice system as a defendant, then they will tend to wind up there again and again. And when you look at a serious repeat offender and trace their criminal history back, the chances are that the first entry that you're going to find is truancy. So truancy is a fairly reliable indicator of delinquency, educational failure, and future criminal behavior. Once that happens, it's very difficult to break that cycle. And so I think it's far better for us to focus our scarce resources on preventing the problem early on through dropout prevention efforts, when you can have a real impact and make the biggest difference. One of the most effective programs that we have in corrections is encouraging people to get their GEDs, or their high school equivalency degree. That's why the Indiana Department of Corrections gives a time cut on criminal sentences for offenders who earn their GEDs while in prisons, because educational attainment is associated with a decreased risk of recidivism. And that's why our judges in our probation department do whatever they can to encourage criminal defendants to get their GEDs. As it turns out, the Teen Learning Center GED preparation class, 40% of the students who participate in that are there because they were ordered to do so by the court. That program lost 2 full-time positions in the recent budget cuts, a teacher's aide and a counselor. Similarly, the Teen Learning Center Credit Recovery Program, 20% of those youth are court involved. That program lost funding for 1 full-time teacher position. And we're concerned about the effect that that will have on at-risk youth from the loss of those positions. The reality is that if we don't adequately fund education for students who are at risk of dropping out, we often wind up paying even higher costs for public safety down the road, which are costs that aren't necessarily reflected in the school budget, but are costs that we pay as taxpayers for criminal justice services, for probation, for corrections. In the justice system, we worked with the schools to try and address this by creating the truancy court, now called the Educational Compliance Court. I would point out using existing resources, no new tax dollars. And we were able to work with the schools to change our approach to dealing with truancy so that we could reduce the amount of delay in those referrals, and we're able to provide more attention and supervision to kids in these cases and give these kids more of a sense that there were immediate consequences to skipping school. We also recognized that the reasons underlying an attendance issue were often complicated social issues that may involve a family in crisis, or poverty, or substance abuse problems, or for kids or parents, or mental health issues. And these are problems that the criminal justice system on its own is really not well suited to address, but someone has to address them, and that requires a comprehensive community-based approach. So we have to work with other service providers in the community to help us address these issues and emphasize that truancy and dropout prevention really have to be community priorities. And in fact, the research shows that truancy courts are most effective when there is a broad-based community effort focusing on dropout prevention, backing that up. And so we're very grateful for the fact that we happen to live in a community where people are focused on this, and we do have an active dropout prevention coalition with the Franklin Initiative and all kinds of groups who are focused on this issue. We did the Live Better, Earn More, Stay Healthier, Go Further, Be Happier, Be There, Graduate for a Better Life public awareness campaign, the Dropout Prevention Summit, this ongoing coalition. We hope that we can keep that momentum going to continue to reduce the dropout rate in our community and learn from each other and figure out ways that we can work together more effectively. We are concerned about the loss of funding specifically for the alternative to suspension expulsion programs at Broadview Learning Center. We can only anticipate that that will lead to more expulsions, which will likely be associated with more criminal delinquent behavior down the road, which will result in a demand for our services. Another area where we see a likely impact is in the cuts in the assistant principal positions in the school system, because we've had active participation from assistant principals with our educational compliance court. They monitor the referrals. They actually come to court and participate and help make it a success. Particularly the assistant principal from Bachelor Middle School has been the source of a lot of our referrals. We're concerned that the budget cuts may mean that we'll be losing that participation, or it will make it more difficult for us to maintain that level of participation in the program. Obviously, concerned about the increase in class sizes and the effect that that might have on the educational engagement of at-risk youth. So at this point, we're concerned. We don't know specifically how all this will affect the educational compliance court, how it will be impacted by the budget cuts, because, you know, it's not clear how some of those services may be funded down the road as things develop. But we need to keep focused on this as a community and keep the momentum going in this coalition.